Hey girls, Maria Menounos here, author of the Every Girl's Guide to Life. Want to know my best tips and secrets for organization, travel, weight loss, beauty, fashion, and everything else in between? Go to bing.com/Maria and pick up my new book, The Every Girl's Guide to Life.
You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network. Now the largest new media platform on the web and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, King Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, and streaming live on Ustream, this is AFTERBUZZ TV for Desperate Housewives. Tonight's host is Derrick Shore. Joining Derrick will be AFTERBUZZ co-hosts Sarah Stratton and Roxy Stryer. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest Desperate Housewives news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, picking up where the show leaves off and the buzz continues, Derrick Shore!
Hello, fellow Desperate Housewives fans. This is actually Roxy Stryer talking right now. Derrick must be doing some Mother's Day nice guy things with his mom or something out there. Happy Mother's Day, by the way, to all the housewives and mothers alike out there. And to my own mom, happy Mother's Day to you, Lori. Okay, so tonight, although they did not mention it on the show, which we found was a little odd, that they didn't talk about Mother's Day on this Desperate Housewives episode, they did talk about a lot. We see Juanita expressing some fears of monsters after watching a film, and Gabby trying to help her through a whole camping event, and Lee coming to help them with that experience. We also see Bree and her new love interest Chuck on the lane, who is the detective, and they both do some recon work on each other. I guess both of them have some broken pasts and broken hearts that they want to prevent from happening again. And then there's the fight with Lynette and Tom over vacation, whether to go to Grand Canyons or to Hawaii. And really, it's a much bigger argument that we will get into later, the situation between the couple. And, of course, the big story with Susan and Paul and Felicia and this food being poisoned, and Susan trying to convince the parents committee to let her back and be a teacher, and really getting screwed over by Felicia, who didn't even mean to, but poisoned the cookies that are actually going to the parents committee instead of to Paul, and that whole mix-up. So I wanted to start by just quickly covering the Juanita situation and giving my 2 cents on this, which is that really, yes, she does watch this video. She is upset. She sees the killer in the video, but why did Gabby never throw it in Carlos's face? Carlos just told Juanita a story about a woman she knows, Bree, killing his mom. You don't think that has anything to do with her night terrors? You know what I mean?
Oh, completely. I mean, we saw that last episode that Carlos told told Juanita that basically Bree helped kill their grandmother. And I think that is definitely a part. Like, once you have that type of... They were so scared of Bree last week going to kill them. Now she's watching these films about death. Like, it's kind of surrounding her.
Right.
And obviously it's going to have a greater effect. And I don't know, as a kid, I wasn't really allowed to watch too many, like, I guess, adult films. But I was always, like, completely forbidden from watching any of,
horror movies.
Horror movies. Like, I was allowed to watch war movies, but not, like, murderer movies.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think that it's an overall issue of kids growing up too fast now, and parents not realizing the effect that has. I know when I was younger, the first R-rated, I actually think it was X-rated at the time, movie I watched was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I think I was about 7 years old when I stumbled upon it in the movie collection, put it on, and was just like what the hell is going on? Clearly really confused. Different scenario, obviously, but I just remember thinking, this opens up an entire world of films for me that I don't know about. And when you're a kid and you want to know more, you see something, and even though it scares you or you're confused, whatever it is, you kind of gravitate towards it. And I think this is going to be a real problem with Juanita. She seems to now, between the story that her dad told her and wanting to watch this movie with her mom, be really interested in horror.
Or something. I mean, I think it is a good point to bring up that it's like one moment Juanita was like, oh, I'm fine with watching it. And then the next moment it's giving her nightmares.
Right.
And then she's kind of ending saying that she understands it's fake. But it's so back and forth, and I think it is going to be interesting watching her. Because as a child, Juanita's been exposed to a lot. I mean, Gabby's not the best role model parent in the world, I would say. I mean, we always see her being like, oh, they can do whatever they want. They've gotten better, but I mean, she's always like, you can do what you want. You can go have this, and I'll buy you things.
As long as it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting because who knows how many seasons are left, but what happens with Juanita and growing up.
Well, I think something that really made me think that she has a weird kind of fascination with or fixation on this whole horror thing is the reaction she had when she saw that it was Lee who was holding the axe. She started laughing, and she wasn't pissed at him like Gabby was. She sat there and was like, funny because it's fake, you know, and it was kind of a little creepy little girl reaction. I wasn't expecting that, you know. She never cried. She never really was even squeezing onto her mom. It was more Gabby squeezing onto her, and I don't know. I just think that it's gonna be a real issue that they're kind of overlooking right now as parents, and you never really know what's affecting your kid because you don't think about it like that. When a kid gets to a certain age, you kind of think, well, if they can pick out their own outfits, if they can get themselves to school, if they can cook themselves breakfast, well, then, you know, really, can I tell them what they can and cannot watch or what they can and cannot do? But how old's Juanita? Under 12, 13?
Probably around there. I'm guessing like early middle school.
Right. Well, she definitely hasn't reached high school yet, so she's still in middle school, maybe even elementary school, and I just think it's like she needs a little bit more parenting.
Oh, definitely. I'm agreeing with you. I mean, they pointed that out even more last week with when Bree tried to parent them because she said that they weren't disciplined enough. So it's a definite issue, and we're just seeing more and more of that each week so far. So maybe that will be a bigger component.
And at the end of that little situation, we actually see a man in a hat, the silhouette of a man in a hat, come to the tent, and you see Gabby kind of brush him off, and she's like, Lee, it was funny once, second time I'm going to kill you. And I kind of turned to you, I was like, who's that? You're like, oh, probably the detective or something. And then we see later on that, and you had a theory about who it was.
We see an older gentleman with like white facial hair, and to me, automatically, I was like, that's Gabby's father, who we've learned this season had molested her as a child.
Right.
And
I don't think we've actually met him before.
I don't think we've met him before. And I was trying to search my memory because I watched, I think, every season. And I can't remember any time he's really, really been described or mentioned any other time.
She avoids talking about her past a lot.
And so, but I automatically assumed it was her father. One, because he looked Hispanic. And two, because he was only watching Gabby, which is an interesting person to pick out watching on the street. Because she steps on people's toes, but besides her family, she doesn't have as big of a, like, quote-unquote, like, past as the other women do. Like, a lot of the women have skeletons in their closets.
And she's never really screwed anybody over in that big of a way.
Gabby's always, like, maybe a little accessory or a witness, but she doesn't have that many things behind her besides her family. So that's why I automatically was like, oh, I think it's her dad.
Yeah, and I definitely think you're onto something there. And we see more in previews, and we'll talk about that in predictions, that man actually comes and approaches her. But I'm just curious what you think. If that is her father, what sort of element will that bring to the show? We always talk about wanting new characters to come on the show and Are you excited for that, or do you think that this is? I mean, there's a lot of complications right now going on in the show, and it's kind of getting difficult to follow all the storylines. You know, as we were in the car today, you were going over with me everything that happened last week, and it can get very confusing. So, is this a good new storyline to introduce, or are we just putting too much on the plate right now?
I mean, if it's her father, they have, I think, two options. One, he's gonna have like gotten out of like prison or something, and he's gonna come back and maybe want Gabby's money or something like that. Like he's gonna like, I could see it being like, oh, I want to be part of my grandchildren's lives, and Gabby being like, no, these are my daughters. I mean, with all the subtext that includes, and then him either like saying he's good and actually being bad, or maybe he is reformed. Those are the only two options. Either he's gotten better or he's secretly not better.
Could this have anything to do with the whole immigration story or something like that, or do we just think that we've totally dropped that and moved on? And
that's something I hadn't thought of, but I think that is a possibility, and like that could be part of it. I guess we were kind of covering a little bit of predictions, but in their encounter, from what I saw of her face, it looked like she recognized him. And with the immigration of the people who have Gabby's biological daughter, Grace, we never really met any of their other family.
Right.
So
maybe something in that realm.
So, I mean, it could be, but those are I guess that is another option.
A third option.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll keep checking back for that and see what's going on there. But so we don't see Gabby actually attempt this episode to talk to Bree at all, which was surprising to me because we know that Gabby's always pushing the buttons. And even though they did end on a note where Bree was saying, you know, we can't have this relationship. I can't do this to Carlos. I can't hurt him anymore. I was kind of surprised that we didn't see any sort of interaction between them. But we do see with Bree is this new love interest, Chuck. And throughout the entire episode, I have Sarah sitting next to me going, so awkward. They are so freaking awkward. So explain, what is it you think about this couple that is so awkward, and is that a bad thing?
I mean, I guess they're awkward to me. Is like they have these little like witty / cheesy like bantering sessions.
But is that the writing, or is that the acting, or what's going on?
It's a definite combination. It's like I feel like there's a level of chemistry, but it's like one of those weird relationships where like it's kind of like, I don't know, in high school there's that couple and they're both kind of weird, but they like kind of fit together at the same time, but at the same time you don't really want to hang around them because you still think they're weird. Like it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, so when they're talking, I'm just like sitting there like, this is really uncomfortable. This is really cheesy, but I get that they get along, but I just feel really weird and like I'm like cringing a little. Like,
yeah.
I guess it's not bad. It's not like they're like gushy, cheesy all over the place. It's just like they they have these little jab-ish lines at each other, and I'm just like, this is just kind of uncomfortable for me. And it's really interesting because another thing I was thinking about with Bree is she's had quite a few love interests in this whole thing, and 2 this season. And I was just thinking, all of the men she goes after are so different. Like, Bree does not have a type. I don't know what her type is.
Well, I don't know. I think that Orson is very much so her type. But I think that she has realized her type didn't do very well for her. You know, she kind of needs to find her new type. And clearly it didn't work out with Brian Austin Green. So she's just, I don't know. I think she's just looking, you know, because I do think she has the guy, she's 40 some odd years old, that for the past few decades she's been going after. And I would consider somebody like Orson, who is more elegant and upper class and whatever it is, her type. But that's why I kind of think this is interesting because Chuck, he isn't lower class. He is a little badass, kind of like Brian Austin Green, but not so construction worker-esque. You know what I mean? And as much as
he's like a smarter,
exactly,
like man's man,
and more similar to. They have a lot more in common. And as many times as I kind of dug my nails or my pen into you, like, ooh, I can't even bear to listen to this. This is so awkward and strange for me. I'm really into this couple right now. Especially the scene with the prostitute, who, by the way, was the most well put together prostitute I have ever seen. What the hell is that? That wasn't even a street corner. Whatever that was. Anyway, though, I thought that was a really endearing scene. That you could tell that this guy consistently picks up this girl and drives her to the shelter. And very telling of him. And I really appreciated the fact that Bree took that and really took that for what it was and stopped her ego from interrupting this girl's vision on becoming a better woman and turning into somebody like Bree. Because we see immediately Bree get defensive, going, I was not a street, whatever it is. And then she stops herself and realizes what he's doing and lets him actually do that. And that shows a lot of growth in Bree.
I see your point, and I agree that shows growth in Bree. And I did like that they added this little factor of, like, endearing quality to him. However, with that scene, in my opinion, it was a little too quick, all of it. It was like the girl got in the car, was a total, like, smart ass to the cop, and then he, like, turns it around so quick, and then
like, thank you.
And then the hooker, like, reforms, like, within an instant and is all teary-eyed. For me, it was a little too quick.
100%. 100%.
Okay.
I'm totally with you. I thought that too, in the matter of seconds, she had changed her mind on Bree and on the situation and was ready to go into the shelter and get cured and become a chef or something. And I was like, oh, well, that's doubtful. I would have rather see them introduce the character. And I actually thought that she was an interesting character and see her a couple more times throughout episodes and maybe even have Bree become her mentor and have, what relationships do we see Bree in that aren't sexual anymore? Because I kind of would like to see a friendship introduced or not somebody quite as permanent as Renee, but somebody, for a couple episodes who comes in and mentors Bree and reforms her life a little bit and is inspiring or something new and different. The show is always throwing us new things, so I'm not saying I'm getting bored with it, but just she came and she left, and so what?
Yeah, I think, what I thought was going to happen, actually, when the hooker prostitute lady got in the car, is I thought it was going to end up being the cop's daughter, just from their relationship. And obviously that wasn't brought to the table. And from the way the conversation went, it didn't hint towards that at all. But he did mention that he does have kids. So it'll be interesting if they do have a relationship to see how their families merge, and especially with whatever's going on with Bree's son as of now. And that'll be, I think they could add a lot of depth.
Right.
That type of situation always.
Another thing I wanted to bring up about the situation was that we saw that Bree was actually pissed at Chuck for doing the background check on her. What did you think of that whole situation? Do you think Bree had any right to be angry after she had done the same thing? Do you think it's legitimate that either of them did the background check? And what the hell is dating come to, as they say?
I think that, one, if you're going to date a detective, predict that he's going to look you up.
Right.
Come on. If you're going to date a cop, you think that. Like, how did she not think that she was doing it and he wasn't? So I was like, come on, Bree, you're a smart lady. Obviously, he's looking up on you.
The Indian food thing was a little too much. There's no freaking way, but okay, keep going.
Yeah, as of her looking him up through Renee, I thought that was so funny and such a Renee thing to do. Know everything. So
financial status.
Yeah, I don't think it's, like, repulsive or anything, because I think people do it more than like, now with the internet and with, like, match services, I think people do look up, like, at least when they're older, who they're going to date. And, like, Bree's not really young. Like, she's been married, she's had all this, so I don't think it's surprising. I don't think it's that bad. They went a little too far on some aspects, and I think that when you do look up people, it can give you a bias to the relationship, and you don't really get to know them. Like, from the start, you go in with judgment, so I don't think it's a good thing to do, but I'm not repulsed by it, and I totally thought that she should have known that he was looking her up too.
Just for a second here on dating in general, this is a conversation that came up today, actually, with one of my friends, and I don't really understand after college, how it comes about, unless you meet somebody through work or something, how do you get asked out on dates? It's just something that I was wondering about today. Jesse, maybe you can speak on this a little bit because Sarah and I are still young and having in classes with people. How do you go out and meet people? How can you is it appropriate to go and meet somebody and ask them on a date, or do you have to hang out in a group of friends, or how does that work?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask this question, but it's kind of funny because I was kind of thinking something similar, but where I'm from, it's a very suburban and country, and for the most part, like, I would go out and it would be mostly older people, single people, and they would go out and they would talk. They were like kids. They would hook up. They would talk to each other. They had swinger parties and that type of stuff. But I mean, for the most part, I think, not to say I don't know what normal is, but to me, my sense of normal, which is not the swingers and all that stuff, I would say mostly through friends or like
getting connected through people, like very rarely does a detective come to your street and hand you a card and say, yo, hit me up. It's like, It's like in my freaking dreams. And I was talking to my cousin the other day who literally, I don't know how she did it. She's from Jersey. She moved out to LA. She went to SC also. She works for a multimedia company. She does PR for them. She's really successful. She's absolutely gorgeous. And every single week that I talk to her, she's on a date with a different guy. I'm like, how the freak do you meet all these guys and they just ask you on dates? She's like, I don't know. This person took me to Soho House and this person did this. Last week I went out with John Mayer and whatever it is. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, do you just sit at a bar and hope somebody approaches you? Or like, do you do the Bree and wait in your house for the neighbor to come, the new neighbor on the street or new detective to come and hand you your business card? Like, how freaking lucky do you have to get?
I think Jesse hit the nail on the head. It's
friends.
It's friends. Like friends or friends of friends.
I need better friends, man.
Well, and that's what I was going to say.
Hey, I'm taking that as a punch
think, like,
to my self-esteem.
Offensively is the word.
Thank
there we
you.
go.
I was like, oh, my voice is going way down. I lost my thought.
Oh. No, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, one of my friends, hook me up, man. I'm meeting all the wrong guys right now, I feel like.
Well, I mean, I look at it also like this. When you're young, you feel like, oh, I could go to a bar, I could go to a club, and I could meet the one. And it gets to the point of, where are you searching for the one, for the person that you want? And it's such a limited space, and now they have the internet, which broadens it a little bit. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, people are scared because who are you opening that door up to?
But so many people are using the internet.
So many.
Yeah,
so many.
I have, and I mean, it's worked out in positive ways for me, and it's also worked out in negative ways as well.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
It's like the older you get, though, I think you don't search for it in certain places because it gets to the point of you know what you really want, and I think that's where your friends come into play.
Well, it's interesting because when I was thinking about it, if we remember back a few episodes ago, a few more than a few, but Renee actually forced Bree to go out to this bar with her, and Renee was totally digging Brian Austin Green, and Bree ended up fighting for him and winning and whatever it was, but Bree was really opposed to the idea of going out to the bar. She goes out, she looks more conservative, and she gets to this club, and it's like all 25-year-olds wearing these low-cut dresses, and there's no way she can compete. And remember, she actually goes to the bathroom, turns her dress around, and whatever it is. And what age do you stop going to clubs looking for people and start trying to meet them online and start? I don't know. It's just something that I've been thinking about recently. Like, when I graduate, I gotta find somebody before then or something.
No,
I'm freaking out over here.
I definitely think people still go up to clubs. I don't know. I could be wrong. Like, way past college. I mean, according to Desperate Housewives, you can go to clubs until you're a mom and have 22-year-old children.
And as long as you look like Gabby, you can do whatever the hell you want till whatever age you want.
Yep. See, no worries.
Jesus, that girl. I know. Anyway, okay, I'll move on my little love life tangent and go on to Lynette and Tom's love life, who are even more screwed up than I am, holy crap, on this situation. Basically, they've totally lost it.
Yeah,
They've gone off the edge, and I'm so happy that Desperate Housewives has done this and has not just made this a one-episode bump in the road, because they're having an actual issue. They're having a marital issue, and we need to see that. Never on TV do you see these long-term problems with couples, because you just want it to happen quick. You want it to be one episode and in and out and whatever it is. But we're seeing that they're not letting it go. Neither one of them is backing down. And even at the end of tonight's episode, when I thought Tom was going to give his whole spiel, and Lynette was going to give hers, and then they were going to come to some sort of agreement, they don't. And they don't even come to an agreement on how they can come to an agreement. She says, we need to get a weekend away. He says, yeah. Pause. Let me check with work. And she knows what that means.
Mm-hmm.
It never happens.
It's a very, 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 very real type problem. And it's true. We've seen this happen this whole season, where they've just struggled with problems, and then they get a little love back. But then they have a bigger problem, and they get a little love back. But the problems are escalating, and they're holding on more to the arguments they've already technically settled.
Right.
Which I think is how real relationships, big fights happen.
Right.
It's you have all these fights and you make up, but then this one thing sticks, that although you might get through it once, it is still at the root of your next fight.
Right.
And the way it came out in this episode was, in my opinion, completely ridiculous. We saw Lynette and Tom have a presentation vacation competition in front of their kids, complete with PowerPoints and posters. And I thought that...
Wait, ridiculous as in unrealistic, or ridiculous as in you didn't like it? Or you did like it, but it was over the top?
It was over the top. I think that parents fighting about that type of vacation and plans and stepping on each other's toes is real. Parents holding presentations, bringing the boardroom to the home, that was over top.
Mm-hmm.
But Lynette and Tom's fighting afterwards and around that was very real. So that made it okay to me. If they had just been like, oh, it's fine now, I wouldn't have been as okay with the whole setup of their vacation duel. But because of the realness around it in their relationship, I was okay with it, if that makes sense.
No, I definitely know what you mean. My big question about this whole thing was, so we all have these couples, these friends who are couples, or couples who are friends of ours, that we look at that never fight. And you're like, they're very rare, but you have that couple friend that you look at and you think, holy crap, they never fight. I don't know how they do it. They are so in love. What the hell is that? And I found myself thinking this episode, well, does it make Lynette and Tom's relationship any less legitimate because they fight? Does that mean that they are less in love than the couple that never argues? You know what I mean?
No, I think it just means that people have different personalities. I mean, fighting as much as Lynette and Tom do, I think at this point is not okay. They're at the point where I would kind of understand them taking a separation or something. I wouldn't like it, but I could understand it. But for couples that fight once in a while and get through them versus couples that never fight, honestly, I wouldn't say the one's more in love than the other. Sometimes it's just personality. I have friends who have gone out together and are great couples, but sometimes their personality is so similar that they can't help but fight.
Right.
And sometimes with people, fighting actually helps your relationship, because some people hold things in too long and don't fight, and then there's one explosive fight and then they break up.
Yeah.
And you're like, what happened? You never fight, and then you had one fight.
And that was that.
Really? What? And then they're like, no, because they hold it in for so long that the one fight can end it after not fighting for so long.
Personally, I know that I will never be in a real relationship, a functioning relationship that doesn't consist of arguments, because I have the kind of personality where, I have learned a little more to pick my battles, but I can't be with somebody that passive. And I've found through the people that I have been dating or whatever it is, that if you're not willing to fight with me, if I'm being ridiculous, then what the hell, then you're not intelligent enough to hold an argument, you know? Like, as stupid as that sounds, and I'm not saying that I want to be with somebody that I'm fighting with all the time, and definitely not over stupid stuff, but as people, you are two separate people, so you're going to disagree on things. Not everything, but on some things, you're going to disagree. That's the way life is. No two people agree on every single thing. So if you're going to just decide that you disagree, but you're going to let me win the battle because you're too lazy to fight about it, or you don't care enough to fight, or whatever it is, then I have no interest in the relationship. And I think that with Lynette and Tom, we can all feel how much love there is there. And it is a struggle. It's a constant battle to keep their relationship afloat, but I don't think that attests to their love. I think it's just the fact that they have four kids, I think. 4 or 5 kids. Well, they have a bunch of kids.
Wait.
They
should have a baby.
Right.
Where's the baby?
I don't know where the baby is. So it's 5 kids, including the baby. They have been married for a very long time. They have issues constantly with their parents getting involved, money issues, issues with success, power issues, whatever it is. Of course they're going to fight, especially when you have a woman with such a strong personality, which usually in relationships, not to be stereotypical, but usually it's the other way around. Of course they're going to fight. And I don't really know how they're going to get through this one. Because this seems to me to be the biggest fight, the most monumental fight that they've had up to this point. It's not the most that they've screamed at each other. It's not that. It's that they really right now, there is no clear solution. I can't sit there and tell you I think one of them's right. And usually I can. I can usually sit there and say, Lynette's being a bitch, Tom's right. Or, oh my God, Tom is such a sob story and annoying. Lynette is a good girl. Whatever it is. I can't sit there and say that this time because I totally get both sides.
Well, I think what makes this one such a big fight is, and such maybe a not get through fight, is that in this fight there has been a personality change. In most of the other fights, and it's been pointed out multiple times, Lynette was the person who already had the power, and Tom didn't have as much to back himself up. He didn't have any ammo to really throw at Lynette. You know what I mean?
Right, no, I know exactly what you mean.
Lynette has a stronger personality than Tom. But now we're seeing like a personal change in each of them, where Tom is getting that power behind him. So he's changing his self-view of himself.
Self-view of himself?
Like, no, but really, I think
I know what you mean.
His personal identity is changing. And that's what makes this fight so huge. Because Tom now sees himself as equal, if not greater in a way than Lynette. And that's never been there. He's always been this person who's like, oh my gosh, I have to live up to my wife. I have to live up to my wife.
Right.
And it's this huge, like, mental change that now he is at her level. He's doing more than he's making more money than she ever did.
So is that wrong? Is what he's feeling and how he is acting wrong? Is he in the wrong?
No, I don't think either one of I don't think I'm in the same boat as you. I don't think either one of them is really in the right or either one of them is really in the wrong. They both have very strong arguments, and I completely understand why they're fighting. More so, I would say Lynette is in the wrong just because he is trying really hard and he's doing everything she wanted. You know what I mean?
Right.
But at the same time, I understand why Lynette feels like he's too much at work and it's not okay for him to step all over her plans and all that. But I think that the bigger problem here is that they have personal changes and Lynette hasn't dealt with him changing and her needing to change to help that. 2-part
question. In this situation, as Tom, what do you do? And as Lynette, what do you do? Because we know they both want to make this work. We know they both want to make their marriage work. They want to get better. They want everything to go back to the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
So first, as Tom, how do you start making those steps progressing? And then as Lynette, how do you follow?
I mean, what I think you have to do is for Tom, his is a little simpler. At least set aside a certain amount of time a week for family time. I feel like that's something everyone can do. Like, it's not that hard to say...
Allocate time.
Say, every Saturday night we're going to have date night, and every Sunday we're going to have family day.
Because he even admitted that even when he's not in the office, his head's in the office.
Yes.
So make it so that his head is not.
Exactly. And then no, you can't schedule meetings during that time, no matter what. Like, pretend like it's another meeting. Like, that's what you do on his. And that's something, like, I think a lot of people can do. For Lynette, hers is a lot harder. I think hers is a mental change. Like, she actually has to be thankful that Tom is trying. She actually has to take a step down and realize that she can't be the boss of the family and realize that she kind of tries to be.
So even if she could see that, it's hard to tell yourself what to do. Quick side note, I have a friend who recently came up to me devastated because she found out that her boyfriend watches porn. I thought this was extremely humorous. All guys watch porn. Every boyfriend I've ever had watched porn. And she was crying to me saying that she could not believe her boyfriend was staring at other women. And after asking maybe 20 people about it, who all said, of course he watches porn. All guys watch porn. She's sitting there and she goes, I know, I get that I'm in the wrong now, but how do I mentally change my state to thinking that I'm in the wrong? So I think it's hard that, I mean, I sat there laughing, and I kind of do the same thing with Lynette. It's like, Lynette, you seem dumb to me right now, you know, step down and be thankful. You pushed him into this position. But even, it's one thing to know. It's one thing to realize that you are being foolish. And it's another thing to actually convince yourself to feel a certain way. And I think that she's really struggling with that.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, it's a mental change. It's not something you can order, but we've seen her do that. I need to step down. I need to step down. I need to step down for a kind of a long time now.
So are you ready to see her actually step down?
I'm ready for her to have some sort of realization that she needs to step down. Like, she needs to. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know if she's going to have to, or if there's going to have to be some horrible thing happen on the lane. I don't know if she's going to need to separate from him and realize that she needs him. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the kids ganging up and telling them that they're proud of their dad, something. There needs to be a mental click. I think it could happen with the snap of a hat. It could take a lot of work, but it's something she can't demand herself to change. It's something that is just going to have to change.
Okay, speaking of unresolved sticky situations, we have this whole Susan, Paul, Felicia fiasco. All right, basically the rundown of this is Susan, having a little bit of survivor's guilt, is trying to provide Paul with a support system through company and food, and trying to make him feel less alone and more comfortable. And she's doing this, but in the meantime, Felicia is taking advantage of Susan and coming over to Susan's house, and while Susan's turning the other way, is actually poisoning Paul's food. And of course, Paul doesn't know that Susan's been hanging out with Felicia, and he assumes that Susan is the one who's been poisoning him after he's gone to the hospital and he gets the food tested. Now, the first question, as obvious as it is, that I'm going to ask is, why didn't Susan, before running out of Paul's house, turn to Paul before she leaves to go figure out the cookie situation and say, Paul, I've been hanging out with Felicia. It must have been her. Why didn't she just say that?
I don't know. There's a lot of... I get this plot. I get it. I mean, it's kind of clever. But honestly, I've had a lot of questions about that. That's the main one. Like, she knew it. We saw her think Felicia was there.
I just don't like when they do that. It's like, okay, you can ask me to disband my belief or whatever, like not be completely realistic, whatever it is. But come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And then there's two other questions.
Okay.
If Susan runs out being like, the cookies...
Then why does he go get the police?
Yeah, wouldn't you realize she wasn't trying to poison a school of children? Like, that's another thing. Third of all, on Felicia's part, Susan is a mom. Like, what if she kept some... Like, when you make cookies, I don't know about you.
No, Felicia just does not give a crap. Felicia does not give a crap who she's hurting. She doesn't care.
How does that not happen? Like, how does Susan bake cookies and brownies all the time, and not ever try one and not ever give one to MJ. And you know what I mean? Like when you bake cookies or you bake brownies,
You're
and
definitely eating the batter at least. I mean,
Yeah.
if you the people that don't eat the batter, I do not understand. Since I've been a little ill this week and I have baked brownies, cookies, cake, whatever it is. I sat there and said to myself, I am not going to eat any batter. I don't know what it is. I cannot help it. I eat at least 500 calories worth of batter every single time, no matter what I make. So, different tangent, sorry, but no way. Do not tell me, Susan Delfino, that you are baking him something every single day and you are not licking the bowl after.
Exactly.
I do not believe you.
Or that her son isn't there once to try.
Okay, Desperate Housewives, I do not believe you. Are you
Roxy
listening
does
to
not
me?
believe you. Someone has to be licking the batter. And I'm with you. Like, that's the thing. Like, this has been going on for quite a while now. How has no one else had this food? Like, it may not kill you one bite, but one bite is going to make you nauseous and upset. How has it not come up?
And a fourth question, where the hell's Mike? Why is every other husband always on the lane and he's just sometimes in Antarctica, sometimes in Alaska, sometimes home, sometimes with MJ, and sometimes just doesn't appear for weeks?
I don't know. There are a lot of questions.
And
right now.
where's MJ for that matter?
Exactly. And where's the baby of the dough?
And why do they all of a sudden have money to move back in the house?
Oh, that's from the poker. Remember?
Oh, yeah. Finally, a question that can be answered. But, you know, I really feel like the show, on a regular basis, does a good job covering their own ass. They cover the storyline, they answer the questions, but with Susan, it's like, what the hell? Get it together. You're not answering my questions. And, frankly, the plot line isn't interesting enough right now to make me be like, I don't even care that I don't believe it.
What I'm going to get angry at is if next week we see Susan in jail and them not believing her or something.
Yeah, because that's the way the episode ended. When the voiceover comes on and Mary Ellen's like, and you sit there and you find yourself thinking, will they believe I'm not guilty? Like, are you kidding me?
It should be really, really, really clear. Like,
all Susan should have to say is, listen, Paul, when I was baking, Felicia was there.
Yeah, and I could totally see Felicia doing something like planning the antifreeze in her thing, but you know what? I don't care. Literally, I want Susan to get out of that thing right away. It's ridiculous if she gets held. Like, it's an automatic excuse that she wouldn't try and poison her son's thing, like the school thing. Like, if you're trying to
run there and try to stop it.
Yeah, and then try and stop it, and then embarrass yourself in front of everyone and knock all the cookies out of everyone's hands. Like, if you don't believe her, then you're retarded.
And I thought the reason that they needed Susan's cookies was because everybody fell through with the cookies. Why were there so many freaking cookies there?
Yeah.
What the hell, Desperate Housewives? What
Come
the
on.
hell with the Susan story? No, in all seriousness, frustrating situation. But if I was Paul, I'd be furious.
Oh, yeah.
I totally get why he's so pissed. I don't think I would have called the cops, but weird. Like, why? But then again, he must be thinking the situation's weird because why would Susan go so far out of her way
to do that? Yeah, and then I'm wondering, why call the cops at that moment? Like, why not call the cops when you found out about the casserole?
She runs out and you think, oh, she just ran out. 911 for sure.
Yeah. Or like, why confront her and try and make her eat the lasagna and then call the cops? Like, it just didn't make sense to me.
Or why didn't she just say, I'm not poisoning your food, Paul, and then take a bite of the food she just made him?
Yeah, that was weird too.
You know, anything like, I don't know, just too many holes in the story. But other than that, I think that they did a really good job this episode. And overall, I mean, next week is the finale. So overall this season, I think they've really done a kick-butt job. And Susan has had a couple good stories between her dialysis and the situation with moving off the lane and that whole deal. But this one, to me...
what was it called? The cleaning? What was the name of it? I totally forget.
What is it?
I totally
I don't know,
forgot.
her little prostitute cleaning service. I don't remember. I'm sure the second we end the show that we will remember. But anyway, so I do think that they overall we've had a pretty good season, and next week we have the 2-hour finale, which should be really exciting, and we can talk about predictions and get to that after we have our commercial break and then talk about the news and gossip.
Alrighty.
Want to find out what the AfterBuzz is about?
Janice is a drama queen.
This is the divide that is going to carry the series.
Give us a call. 424-256-1729. 424-256-1729.
It's television, and they want it to be as dramatic as possible.
I mean, it's Shakespearean.
You never know what goes on behind closed doors.
Find out why AfterBuzz TV is the #1 source for after-show content.
Now, in the eyes of Jimmy, Nucky is a villain.
424-256-1729. 424-256-1729.
I mean, who would you guys rather hear that from? Your husband or your best friend?
The wig! The wig will come out.
When the TV show is over, get your AfterBuzz on. AfterBuzz TV News.
So, Mark Moses knows Shady. The actor has appeared on Desperate Housewives since 2004 in the role of ex-convict Paul Young, and will soon take a similar persona over to USA. Entertainment Weekly reports that Moses will guest star on Covert Affairs this summer as the suspect in a CIA investigation.
You know, I totally understand typecasting, but I get frustrated when the same actor plays the same role and just a different show all the time. Like, maybe it's because I'm an actress, but I want to see what you can do, so I know it's not really your choice, but try to take parts that are a little different, or try to I don't know. It is tough, but I'd like to see what else he could do besides kind of be a creepy guy.
Maybe he turns out to be a good guy in the CIA investigation.
He kind of turns out to be a good guy in Desperate Housewives, though.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? Yeah.
So, Elizabeth Rodriguez has claimed that Susan Lucci has inked a deal with ABC to join the cast of Desperate Housewives. Reports first surfaced last month claiming that Lucci would join the drama following the cancellation of long-running soap All My Children earlier this year.
Okay, you don't understand. This one hits home. Devastating for me that All My Children is off the air. Devastating. My mom, I've been watching since I was 7 years old. My mom is the biggest fan. She called me bawling. I thought somebody in my family had died when she heard that All My Children was getting off the air. So she also is a major fan of Desperate Housewives. Susan Lucci coming on the show will do great things for the Stryer family. I kid you not.
Okay, I'm interesting. I'm wondering if it's going to take it a little too soap opera-y. I can talk.
Soap opera-y?
Soap opera-y. Like, too far, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but actually I think Susan Lucci is pretty talented, and I wonder what role she'll play. She's a little older, so I don't know exactly how she's going to fit in. Still a beautiful woman, but if she will be one of the Desperate Housewives, if she's a new Lane member, or whether she comes in as a mother, or what her deal on the show is. So it'll be interesting.
Definitely.
Jonathan Cake has revealed that his romance on Desperate Housewives will encounter some problems. Cake's character Chuck arrived on Wisteria Lane in the previous episode of the show and began flirting with Bree. Cake explained that Chuck is attracted to Bree's wild side. As a detective, he's sort of drawn to this woman who seems both quite proper and conservative, yet can't seem to stop herself from being drawn into these sort of crazy weird scenarios.
You know, it's hysterical to me because 4 years ago, or even a year ago, if anybody had ever said that they were attracted to Bree's wild side, I would have said you're thinking of the wrong character. Bree, wild side, you know? But now she really does have one.
I mean, I did like the comment where he was talking about her record, and he goes, well, I mean, I was like a woman or someone who had like 4 handguns and a .36 caliber shotgun or rifle or something along those lines.
She is a BAMF, for sure. Badass.
Go ahead, Bree.
Yeah, you get it, Bree.
A judge has ruled that Nicolette Sheridan has a strong enough case against ABC and Desperate Housewives creator Mark Cherry to warrant a full trial by jury. Sheridan filed a lawsuit against both parties in April last year, claiming that her Desperate Housewives contract had been wrongfully terminated and that Cherry had struck her when she complained about the decision to axe her character Edie Britt.
You know, this is interesting because we actually, not on air, but last week with Derrick, we were talking about Edie and whatever happened and what the deal was. And she claimed that Mark Cherry actually abused her, physically abused her, and that was the situation there. And it always seems so strange to me because why her? You know, everybody else says what a good guy he is. The likelihood of him just randomly picking one of the stars of his shows and abusing her,
sounds weird.
A little far-fetched. But I wonder if there's new evidence or why all of a sudden they think she actually has a case against this.
And this is my other little tidbit on this. I don't know, between this and like Charlie Sheen, I don't know, there's something that rubs me the wrong way about people suing once they get kicked off shows. Because for the most part, I think it's normally rightfully deserved. Like, either people don't like you, you're not helping the plot, you're bad, you like hurt the overall product of the show. I don't know, so some of this stuff kind of rubs me the wrong way. And when she got axed off, it was because there was a lot of on-set drama, correct?
Well, I don't know. I was about to say, I don't know the actress, but I thought I was pissed. I was pissed when she got kicked off the show. I loved her character.
I mean, I really
I don't know if she was causing a lot of problems or what it was, though.
What I remember, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure she was having a lot of problems with other castmates, especially, I think, Terry Hatcher. That's what's sticking out of my memory, so I might be imagining things, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And that I do understand. I understand, like, they've done that on so many shows. And, like, that's the whole thing. You gotta be professional or you lose your job. That's how every job works. People get fired. You don't get to sue for the money you haven't made yet.
Right. You know, being an actress, yes, on screen it's glamorous, but that's going to work. You know, you're a working actress because you're working. And if you can't put aside your celebrity status and work, then you don't deserve to be an actress.
Exactly. And so, from what I remember, it was because of, like, social issues that she got kicked off. And so it's really annoying to me that she's suing them.
Right. I agree.
Desperate Housewives actress Terry Hatcher appears on the cover of June's issue of Prevention magazine on Stands Now. And we got a sneak peek from the magazine's exclusive interview, and apparently the twice-the-4 star is on a serious manhunt.
She is herself a desperate housewife then.
A little bit.
I don't know what the deal with any woman on the show being on a manhunt. I know any man I know would be lucky to have any one of these women. Jesus, seriously. And I hear nothing but great things about this actress. So I don't know. It's all the best women that struggle finding men. That's what I keep telling myself, at least. That's what I tell myself at night when I don't have a man next to me. Just kidding.
Well, that's your AfterBuzz TV Desperate Housewives news and gossip for the week of May 8th, 2011.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Okay, predictions for next week.
The big finale.
Yeah, the big 2-hour finale, which luckily is not the last episode of Desperate Housewives ever. Because we were scared for a little while that it would be. Mm-hmm. But anyway, it's not, so good thing for that. But it is 2 hours. We've got a long one, and we have a lot of ends to tie up. So what are we going to see? Let's start with the Susan situation. So, Susan, you think she's going to jail? You think she's not? I know you don't want her to be, but what do you think's going on there?
She's getting out of jail. Susan is going to get out of this. And somehow Felicia's going to get out of this, too. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I feel like it's going to happen.
Okay, and Paul is going to be left pissed at Susan or reconcile, or what's going to go?
I think Paul is going to think Felicia did it.
Okay.
I think this kind of blew up in Felicia's face. I don't think she expected him to go get the food tested. He was a little too smart for her, I think, on this, and I think he's going to know or something.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. Moving on to the Bree situation. This new guy, we see in predictions that Lee's gaydar is going off and that he thinks that Bree's new Chuck is gay. I wasn't getting that vibe at all.
I wasn't either, but maybe they'll throw like a person who's bisexual into the mix.
Yeah, we saw somebody like pinch his ass or something.
Yeah.
I don't really know what.
I could see them doing that. Have they had a bisexual character before?
I don't know. But I don't know if I see Bree. Remember last week when we were talking to Derrick's friend, he said that the character introduced in last week's episode was going to be around for next season. So I don't know if maybe he won't stay as Bree's love interest then, but I don't know if I could see Bree accepting a guy who was bisexual.
That is true. Who knows? Maybe, who knows? I'm going to leave that at who knows.
Moving on to Gabby and the whole situation with Juanita. I just see Juanita falling apart a little bit here, and I don't know exactly how Gabby and Carlos are going to deal with this, but definitely the finale, we're going to see a little bit of Juanita not being able to hold herself together, I'm pretty sure.
I'm not as convinced. I don't know how much they'll focus on Juanita just because she's had a lot in these past 2 episodes, and they normally don't have. She's normally not that involved in the show.
So you think they're just kind of gonna brush that under the rug, or what's going on?
I think that's gonna get brushed under the rug, and I think it's gonna be all about this weird guy. And I think we saw in predictions that it looked like he was in Gabby's room.
She was kind of naked in bed. I don't know, or something, sleeping, whatever the deal was.
Who knows? But it looked like she was in her bedroom. And it looked like she recognized the guy. I think that's going to be the big thing with them.
And like he broke in.
Yeah, or something.
And then maybe Juanita's really actually scared because there is something to be scared of.
Yeah, who knows?
And he is the goblin. And our last story. Oh, actually, we didn't talk about Renee at all. She doesn't really.
We did see her kiss someone in the.
Oh, see, it happened so fast. I
believe I saw her kiss someone. It didn't look like someone from the lane. I don't know who it was. So I think we're going to see.
Oh, that's nice. I would definitely like to see something open up for Renee there, a little love interest to be introduced for the next season because, yeah, she definitely deserves it.
I think that's something that will get introduced next episode, but I don't think will get resolved next episode.
Of course not, right?
And I think that's something that they'll carry on to next season. But it did look like some sort of love interest for Renee.
Okay, and the big drama with Lynette and Carlos, with Lynette and Tom, the situation here, are we going to feel satisfied at the end? Is there going to be a position where we think, okay, this couple's going to make it? Are they not going to make it? What are we thinking is going to be by the end of the 2-hour finale, what is going to be their status?
I just have this horrible feeling in my stomach that they're going to leave us hanging. You know?
Okay.
Desperate Housewives love to leave people hanging. Like, yeah, they'll give us some answers. I think they're going to give us some Paul answers. But just because that storyline's been going on for a long time. But Lynette and Tom, I just feel in my stomach that we're going to be left on this note like, that's what you want to do? Yes. But we're not going to know what they want to do. We're just going to know that they both decided to do it.
Yeah.
Like something like that. And I'm just going to be like, no. And I'm going to be pounding my head into the table going, I can't wait 4 months. Or whatever
yeah, like whatever it is. I know what you mean. And then the other thing I'm remembering seeing is Paul Young fall over and later on somebody say, there's a murder on the row, something like that. So maybe we'll see something with murder. Potential divorce on the line, all this different stuff. So it will definitely be a great finale. I will be here. You will be here. You all better be listening and watching the best show on the air, our lovely Desperate Housewives. We will see you next week, our fellow fans. Happy Mother's Day.
From producers Kevin Undergaro and Phil Svitek, engineer DJ Jesse Janity, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. If you have questions or comments, be sure to buzz us at info@AfterBuzzTV.com. And you can find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Buzz you later.